Welcome to the Averills of Chipping, Norton, Ipswich, and beyond, Lives Recast video number 8. The Averill Sawmill, powering a growing Topsfield in the 17th and 18th century. By the early 1690s, Topsfield recognized the great value of its timber resources. As early as 1677, the town voted that no trees were to be cut without explicit permission, an early conservation measure that reflected the scarcity and importance of usable timber in this developing frontier community. Houses, barns, hearths, fencing, carts, and furniture all depended on a steady supply of workable wood, and the community's survival depended on maintaining these resources responsibly. Topsfield granted permission for sawmills to be constructed at strategic points along its waterways to meet the growing needs of the town. In the early 1670s, Francis Peabody built a grist mill along Mile Brook off one of the trails in current-day Clock Park. The Peabody Mill, pictured here, set the example regarding how water power was controlled to support the town's development. About 20 years later, in 1693, the Averill Sawmill was erected, becoming an essential part of Topsfield industrial landscape. Located at what is today the Ipswich River Audubon Sanctuary at 87 Perkins Row, the Averill Sawmill sat along Mile Brook, a narrow, consistent, fast-moving waterway that cut directly through their property. The Averill Mill used a traditional setup which was simple yet effective. A wooden water wheel turned by the current, connected by a crank and a stout connecting rod known as a pitman arm. The arm converted the rotational motion to a vertical motion to power the saw blade frame. I will have a video titled "An 18th Century Sawmill Powered by Water" linked in the description. The results were transformative. With a functioning sawmill in town, productivity increased, and ordinary families, farmers, craftsmen, and laborers could more easily build their homes, barns, furniture, and tools. Timber that once took days to cut by hand could now be processed with a fraction of the labor. Mills like the Averills became the quiet engines behind the growth of colonial towns. Thomas Proctor, who owned significant acreage throughout Topsfield beginning in the late 1800s, including all of the land within today's Audubon Sanctuary, built a small cottage directly on the Averill Mill foundation. Nearby, he filled a deep pit with stones and earth to create solid access ways across the surrounding swampy ground, a reminder of how essential this landscape remained for travel, farming, and resource use. Upon his death circa 1950, he conveyed a large portion of his holdings to the Massachusetts Audubon Society, who, in turn, acquired 2,000 acres, which helped become the Ipswich River Wildlife Sanctuary today. Throughout the 17th and 18th centuries, water meant power, and in Topsfield, the mills were constructed on nearly every brook or stream capable of turning a wheel. These massive historic mills, processed for grinding, spinning, and sawing, shaped the economic and physical landscape of the town. Though nothing of the original structure remains, the legacy of the Averill Sawmill lives on in the land itself, with the old mill site now quiet under forest cover, with whispers of history heard from the swaying trees and the animals that call the sanctuary home. Continue to enjoy the view.